Remember what it was like to be a kid? To explore and play. To roam free all day. In Jamestown, North Carolina, we get out of the grind and escape into the moment. People feel good here. Let loose here. Eat well here. Feel swell here. We go for a ride or an afternoon stroll. We cheer each other on. And go for the goal. Here, a treasured history meets the energy of a town on the rise. In a place with true heart and soul. And where we have our own special beat. Jamestown, North Carolina, where history and possibility meet.
Call the meeting to order. Hello, everyone. Katie, I'll let you call the roll.
Councilmember Glanville is absent. Councilmember Gibson.
Here.
Mayor Dickinson.
Here.
Councilmember Burgess.
Here.
Councilmember Westmoreland.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, council, is there anything that needs to be added or deleted to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion to request to add budget amendment number 4 as the last item on the consent agenda, to add the presentation of the certificate of recognition to Casey Martin as the first item after public comment, to remove the high school representative report from the agenda, and to remove the award of contract to the lowest responsible bidder for the East Main Street Side Path Project from the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. The consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended with budget amendment?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to public comments. And I read a little introduction last time, sort of as a primer for myself, and just as a reminder that we are going to forego having to state your address at the podium. If you'll just make sure when you sign in, you add it there, because since this goes to YouTube forever, we don't want to keep that out there. And just a reminder that I know last time there was some enthusiasm, I think, in the audience, and if we just want to remind everyone to kind of hold it down and remember that we've all got something to say and everyone wants to hear what's being said, and a reminder of where we are. And we have 3-minute limit. So, Katie, did anyone sign up for public comments?
Yes, Stan Calvarese.
Hello, good evening. Mayor, good evening, and town council members, good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Stan Calvarese. I live at 103 Forestdale Drive, and I didn't catch the first announcement that was made a little while ago about something about East Main Street. Is that a new agenda, something about East Main Street? Which, is that something new? Pam, did you mention that?
I don't know, go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that was a part of an amendment.
Amendment? It has nothing to do with the rezoning the area on Main Street where, you know, they're going to want to rezone it
Right.
from commercial to residential. But I lived in the area for 20 years, and I've seen the traffic patterns increase and decrease over the last 20 years. And I think if you go ahead with the proposed zoning thing, then it'll hurt the traffic in that area, and it'll make it really busy. Where my house is, I can see the land. I'm real close, and right now, there's a little traffic jam after school every day around 2:20. And like the other day, I counted 50 cars going past my house on Forestdale from that school, letting out the school. And then in the morning, there's a little bit of traffic problem there. But if we don't reject the proposed rezoning, if we don't do that, then it'll cause a bad traffic. You know, the bypass was good. It eliminated a lot of traffic. But if we add 132 units, there's going to be kids going to that school, and there's going to be a lot more traffic around that area, and it's going to really impact Jamestown really adversely. And the other reasons I'll quickly, briefly talk about is the environmental. I like to see the environment stay the way it is, the wildlife in that area. It's good the way it is. And a third thing is the impact on the people that live there. Now, I live close enough by that I can hear from the train tracks to Main Street, I can hear the trains running. They usually run every 4 hours. Sometimes I've heard trains, and they're real loud, and I don't know how people could live in a housing development like that to hear trains like every 4 hours going by. I've heard them in the middle of the night, just as like it's right outside my front window, and it's real loud. And then I've heard a lot of ambulances going by. I think they go down to down towards High Point, but they run right by that area like 2, maybe 3 times a day. So the people that live there will not be they won't have the peace and quiet. But I just wanted to say that I'm for the planning board, and they rejected the proposal to change it to, you know, residential. But thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think just by point of clarification, that was the properties on, is it East Main Street, across from the library, that were, the planning board voted to deny the recommendation. But whether they voted to recommend it or deny it by law, we still have to hear that, and we're going to hear that in March, at the March meeting. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, John Stillman.
Thank you, Council, for all you guys do. I decided to come here today because of the past 2 weeks. I own an office building in Greensboro off the main thoroughfare of one of the busiest streets in Greensboro. And our neighborhood in Whittington Hall got all the snow removed and scraped at least a day before my office building off a main thoroughfare. And I know you guys probably don't hear this much, but I was so grateful for the work that our public works people here do that I just felt compelled to be here. And, you know, I look back at all the services that we get as a Jamestown resident, whether it's the leaf pickup, whether it's some of the tree removal stuff. I pay more taxes in Greensboro for my building than I do here, and I get less service. So I just wanted to mention how appreciative I am of what the staff is doing and all the work you do. Along those lines as well, I've been a Rotarian for about 25 years. And I am grateful for the leadership that you guys have done in hiring Matt Johnson. I just wanted to say just a quick word about that. I have been a president, a governor, and served in almost every major capacity in Rotary in this district. I've got to witness Matt firsthand as he served as club president, as he's run one of the most important projects, our district conference, and some other projects. And I've seen him, the great integrity, the creativity he's had, and the problem solving. So I'm grateful for the foresight that you guys have had to bring him on, and I appreciate all you guys do, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
Dr. Ray Pfeiffer.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ray Pfeiffer. I've lived here 30 years. And I say, let Jamestown be Jamestown. What I mean by that is this is a vibrant community. It is a destination spot for the whole triad. We have the best restaurants. We've had the best restaurants in the past. This is a place to come. And the reason why this is what it is that there's been a continuum of excellence in management of the town. This is we're the first community in the area that had brick sidewalks. Go think about that. An expense, but it's something that sets us apart. And in fact, we're the only community in here that's got a tunnel called Lydia's Tunnel, which is kind of suspenseful, but it's a showplace type thing. I've walked through it, we just have so many neat things. I think the leadership that we've had, council members and mayor, you're running a top-notch community. And so what I mean by letting Jamestown be Jamestown is let's have the same continued progress that we've seen over the past 30 years that I've lived here. So please, thank you, workers. Thank you to all the retired workers and everybody and the people that are no longer council members or mayors that have overseen this fantastic community of Jamestown, North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we've seen a lot going on in Greensboro lately with restaurant closings and expensive parking is what I'm reading. And I've taken to Facebook and made an effort to go to our local restaurants and remind our friends that we have free parking in Jamestown. So something to think about. Take that market here. Okay, and is there anyone else?
Yes, Carol Brooks.
Carol.
Surprised you didn't expect to see me up here, I'm sure. I'm Carol Brooks, and I'm a writer with the Jamestown News. My publisher sent me a statement that he would like to make regarding the discussion you're going to have later about the publication of legal notices for the town, and I'd like to read it. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about an issue that goes to the heart of transparent government, civil engagement, and the legal integrity of your public process, the publication of public hearing notices in our local weekly newspaper, the Jamestown News. Public notices are not just a statutory requirement, they are a covenant between local government and the citizens you serve. They ensure that every resident, taxpayer, business owner, and property holder has fair warning when decisions are being considered that may affect their property, taxes, zoning, schools, infrastructure, or quality of life. Publishing these notices in the Jamestown News is critically important for several reasons. First, reach and accessibility. While digital platforms are valuable tools, they are not universal. A significant portion of Jamestown's population, particularly longtime residents, still rely on print newspapers as their primary and most trusted source of local information. According to U.S. Census demographic data, the median age in Jamestown is approximately in the low to mid-40s, noticeably higher than the national median. Newspaper readership studies consistently show the strongest engagement among adults 45 and older, the very residents most likely to vote in municipal elections, attend hearings, and own property impacted by canceled decisions. Second, legal defensibility. Courts across the country have repeatedly upheld print newspaper publication as the gold standard for public notice because it provides a fixed, archived, third-party record. Social media posts, websites, and email blasts can be edited, deleted, or missed entirely. A newspaper notice creates an independent, time-stamped record that protects the town from legal challenges claiming inadequate notification. Third, equity and inclusion. Not every resident has reliable broadband access, uses social media, or regularly visits municipal websites. Seniors, lower-income households, and some rural residents can be unintentionally excluded from digital-only notice strategies. The weekly newspaper remains one of the most equitable ways to ensure broad, non-discriminatory dissemination of public information. Fourth, local economic sustainability. The Jamestown News is, and this, I didn't time this. I will be glad to send a copy of this to everyone if they would like.
Thank you, Carol.
Carol.
And we are going to discuss this.
From the publisher, Charles Womack.
Right, and we'll be discussing this a little more later on this evening. So, thank you, Carol. All righty, anyone else?
Nobody else signed up?
Okay, let's, I think we have a special presentation to make.
We do. I can get my fellow council members to join me in the podium. I'm not sure I'm supposed to speak into that microphone facing this way. So I'm going to try and speak loud, and you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if I'm not speaking loud enough.
Just stand close enough to you.
Stand close enough to it. I'll try to use my clear the hallways voice. Before I bring the person we're honoring up tonight, I just want to say that a lot of us feel like sometimes we want to do things. We see something going on, we want to intervene, but we don't always take that extra step to actually do it. And sometimes maybe something simple, somebody drops something, reach out and pick up and hand it to them. But sometimes people are in a situation that is very difficult. And we come across things and we're not entirely sure if we want to be a part of that, even though deep down we know we need that. Well, I'd like to bring one of our town employees forward, because this person took that step forward to reach out and help somebody. They went above and beyond that. If I get Casey Martin, please come forward. You want to stand right over here, please? Casey works in the code enforcement department here in Jamestown and was patrolling the town and came across an individual that was not in very good shape. He was an unhoused person who had a difficult encounter with some people and was not in good shape. A lot of us would see that and go, well, I'm not sure that's the thing we want to get involved in. We got some other folks, I'll call somebody to take care of that. But no, Casey took the time to stay with the individual, had conversations with the individual who was having some very difficult times in their life and very difficult times in the moment, and shared some things with Casey that were very, very personal and very concerning. And so Casey stayed with him until the ambulance came, took him to the hospital. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the town, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to do that, because not all of us will. We like to think we do, but you did. And I certainly want to thank you for that. And I'll read this proclamation to you. Certificate of recognition to Casey Martin in recognition of going above and beyond the duties of code enforcement officer by ensuring the safety and well-being of a community member through prompt action, compassion, and professionalism. So, thank you, Casey. We certainly appreciate it.
Okay, and now our feature presentation is the presentation of our audit report summary. This nice book that was at our places as we walked in, and it's now posted on the Jamestown town website under the documents. And this is the annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025. So I know there was some confusion. I got a couple of emails, and folks thought this was the new budget we were working on. This is for the year ended 2025, and every year this has to be audited and submitted to the state treasurer, and so we are going to get a nice report somewhere from Mr. Nick. What is his name?
Nick Wicker.
Nick Wicker. That's a great name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the council, the mayor, the town, and all the citizens of Jamestown for allowing us to serve the town of Jamestown. And then secondly, I would like to personally thank Faith, Matt, Katie, and all staff for helping us complete the audit. I don't think many people understand the tremendous effort that goes into completing an audit. And it really involves all parties, not just us. So I'd like to thank you, Faith. So real quick, I want to distinguish that we're going to present this audit report summary, and there's a good reason why. You also have the ACFR, which is your annual comprehensive financial report, in front of you as well. I saw those when I was handing out the report summary. And the reason why we don't present from that is because we could talk about the nuances of governmental accounting going from the governmental wide statements to the fund level statements for hours, and none of us would be better for it. So we put this together. This is a simplified version for an ease of reading and understanding the fiscal position of the town. So getting into it, first and foremost, I'd like to talk about the services we have provided for the town. And y'all will have to bear with me. I have a remote, and I am not technologically savvy. So we have performed an annual audit of the financial statements. We assisted with the preparation of the financial statements, and we have reported to management on observations and recommendations for improvements, consultation on accounting matters as requested, and then obviously attendance at council meetings as requested. I would like to point out that there have been no independence issues, and so we are able to opine over the financial statements in accordance with the Yellow Book 2018. In getting to your basic financial statements, we express an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion you can get. That's what we commonly refer to as a clean opinion over the basic financial statements themselves. And in FY25, we did perform a single audit over the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. We also express an unmodified opinion there. Your required supplemental information consists of the management's discussion and analysis, and then your pension schedules and your OPEB schedules. I'd like to point out here that RSI is not subjected to the same audit procedures as the basic financial statements themselves, and we do not provide any assurance over those. I would like to point out that we did not assess any deficiencies in internal control, so no significant deficiencies and no material weaknesses. So scrolling into the first letter, this is what we call the AUC 260. This is required communication with governance at the conclusion of the audit. I'm not going to read this letter to you verbatim, but I would like to point out a couple of things that I think are important and worth noting. So in the second paragraph under the significant audit matters, as alluded to in note 1 to the financial statements, we did implement GASB statement number 101 for fiscal year FY 2025, and that is compensated absences, and that required a restatement of beginning net position. And essentially what happened is previously the only leave liability that was recognized in your financial statements was vacation leave, annual leave, whatever you'd like to call that. And through the implementation of GASB 101, we have now added sick leave, personal leave, and comp leave also as a liability. And I really want to mention that to say sick leave is not recognized 100% as a liability. Only the amount that we expect to be used over the next 12 months will be recognized as a liability. I just wanted to point that out. Management estimation of depreciation and then the current portion of compensated absences are the key estimations that are included in your financial statements. We encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. We had no disagreements with management in performing the audit, and we were able to obtain a signed management representation letter. And that's really all I have highlighted to speak on in the AUC 260. Do y'all have any questions about this communication letter? Okay. The next letter we'll look at is what is formerly known as the AUC 265, is the communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. If you'll notice that this letter is less than a page long, it's about a half a page, that is an indication that things are going well. Should we have assessed significant deficiencies and material weaknesses, this would spill over into multiple pages, and that's when you really need to start worrying about your internal control environment. Any questions here? Perfect. So diving into your graphs, we'll look at your governmental fund balance. So for FY 2025, the general fund had an increase of $1,436,401 as compared to FY 24. All other governmental funds had an increase of $315,184. And so in totality, FY 25 had an increase of $1,751,585. And this is essentially your result of operations for the year. Looking at your governmental fund balance by category, your non-spendable fund balance had a decrease of $5,002. And so your non-spendable fund balance, that's consisting of inventory, prepaid expenses, and in your case, is the difference between your lease receivable on the books and the deferred inflow of resources related to leases on the books. Your restricted fund balance had an increase of $354,587, and that consists of restricted by state stabilization and Powell bill funds. And essentially, restricted by state stabilization is any accounts receivable you have on your balance sheet, excluding property taxes receivable. And that's excluded because they're already washed out with a liability for that as well. Your committed fund balance had an increase of $390,440 as compared to FY 2024, and that's going to be made up of your capital project funds. And assigned fund balance had an increase of $848,146, and this is your subsequent year's expenditures as listed in your FY 26 budget. And so essentially, this is a budgetary mechanism to balance your budget. And then unassigned fund balance had an increase of $163,414. So again, in total, fund balance had an increase of $1,751,585. For you guys, I'd like to point out that the $5,304,665, that is what is actually available to appropriate from.
Can you repeat that number?
The $5,304,665, the unassigned fund balance, that is what you can actually appropriate from as governance. And then your total unassigned fund balance as a percentage of total general fund expenditures was around 69%, which is really indicative of strong, healthy fund balance. I think the LGC requires you or would like for you to be around 34.
And just for the record, our policy requires us to maintain at least a 40% general fund balance. So we're above that number.
Next, we're going to look at your governmental revenues by source, and I would like to point out that this does not include other financing sources, so that would be like your installment finance purchasing issued leases and subscriptions. So your ad valorem taxes had an increase of $338,864 as compared to FY 2024. Your intergovernmental revenues had an increase of $1,095,338. Your services and fees had an increase of $196,107, and your other had an increase of $85,508. So your intergovernmental increase is primarily due to an increase in your local option sales tax of $185,195, and then grants from Guilford County and the state of North Carolina totaling $854,982.
So what's in the other revenue category?
We're going to get to that. You can essentially think of that as like miscellaneous. That's where your contributions and donations are going to go, insurance recoveries, investment income, et cetera.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so your service and fees increase is primarily due to review fees of $73,283, stormwater fees of $70,940, and I can't read my own handwriting. I think that says mechanical cart rentals for $48,439. And then your other revenues, the increase is largely attributable to contributions and donations, an increase of $47,713, and then insurance recoveries increased $11,758. Any questions here?
Services and fees, you said review fees, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
What are review fees?
Faith, can you speak to that a little bit?
Review fees mostly are planning. It would be from planning, so it could be from development.
Like permits and,
Any other questions here on the revenues?
So where do motor vehicle fees hit on this? Are they under services and fees, or are they under the? Okay,
The motor vehicle fees would be under there.
yeah, services and fees, okay,
And then your motor vehicle taxes, that would fall under the ad valorem taxes.
okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
the property tax you pay and the DMV to the county is under ad
Correct.
valorem, okay,
That is correct.
all right.
Looking at your governmental expenditures, your general government expenditures had a decrease of $151,005 as compared to FY 2024. Your public services had an increase of $1,190,212. Public safety had an increase of $67,184. Recreation had an increase of $835,852. And your debt service had an increase of $83,516. Your public services increase is primarily due to ongoing capital outlay projects and street projects. Your public safety increase was primarily due to the sheriff contract increasing $76,218 as compared to FY '24. Your recreation is also going to be related to capital outlay projects that are ongoing. And then debt service, that's just your principal and interest that you're paying on your leases, your installments, and your subscriptions.
so recreation includes all, the golf course and everything,
That is correct.
in both parks.
That is correct. So looking at your general fund balance by itself, so this does not include any of the other governmental funds. Your non-spendable fund balance decreased to $5,002. That's the same as it was previously. Your restricted fund balance had an increase of $354,587. Again, that's going to be your restricted by state stabilization in your Powell bill. Your committed fund balance had an increase of $75,256, and that's just dollars that are committed to ongoing capital projects. And then your assigned fund balance had that increase of $848,146, and that's the budgetary mechanism, your subsequent year's expenditures as listed in your FY '26 budget. And then your unassigned fund balance had an increase of $163,414. So in totality, your general fund had an increase of $1,436,401. And that's the result of your operations for the fiscal year. And again, I'd like to point out that $5,304,665, that's what is actually available to appropriate from, and it represents about 69% of your total general fund expenditures for FY25. Looking at your general fund revenues by source, your ad valorem taxes, again, had an increase of $338,864. Your intergovernmental had an increase of $55,356. Services and fees had an increase of $196,107. And then other had an increase of $84,629. So in totality, your total general fund revenues by source increased $674,956 as compared to FY24. And again, your intergovernmental increase is largely due to the increase in the local option sales tax. Services and fees, that was your review fees, the stormwater fees, and the mechanical cart rentals. And then other was your investment income increased $24,282, and then the contributions and donations increased $47,713. Any questions here? Looking at your general fund expenditures, your general government for the general fund had a decrease of $151,005, and that was largely due to salaries and wages and planning decreasing, and then a decrease in capital outlay and building improvement. Public services had an increase of $530,887, and that was for equipment and other contracted services. Public safety had an increase of $67,184. And that was the increase in your sheriff contract. Recreation had an increase of $717,520, and that was largely due to salaries and wages, other contracted services, and capital outlay. And then your debt service had an increase of $83,516. And again, that's just your principal and interest you're paying on your installment debt financing, your leases, and your subscriptions. Looking at your water and sewer net position for the last 5 fiscal years, I'd like to point out that FY 2024 here has been restated because the water sewer fund is maintained on the full accrual basis of accounting at the fund level and the government-wide level. The implementation of GASB 101 impacted this graph. And it hits 2024 because GASB requires retrospective implementation of accounting standards. So we implemented it with the numbers as of 6/30/2024 on 7/1/2024.
So restated, it's just, you're just making, this is like actual, I guess.
Yes, we were correcting the FY 2024 ending number here to agree to what it would have been after we implemented GASB statement number 101.
I saw that a few of those throughout the report.
Yes, so if you were looking in the full ACFR and you looked at Exhibit B, you will see it there for both governmental funds and business type funds.
Yeah.
And then if you look, it's going to be F or G. I can't remember. It's one of those two. You'll see it for the water sewer fund as well. Right. So in 2025, there was an increase of $1,887,374 as compared to FY 2024. This is a result of operations and your non-operating activities. Looking at your net position by category, your net investment in capital assets, I'd like to point out here that while 2024 is restated, these balances, the only balance that changed is unrestricted. So your net investment in capital assets had an increase of $738,072. Water and sewer system development had an increase of $578,189, and your unrestricted had an increase of $571,113. So in totality, you had an increase in net position of $1,887,374. And here I'd like to point out that the $12,230,592, that is what is available to appropriate from as governance. And it represents 271.59% of operating expenditures for FY 2025.
How much?
That's
200,
271.59%. That's a really good number. The LGC likes you to be around 34, so y'all are doing really well there. Any questions here?
Maybe more, a question for the manager. Do we have any kind of fund balance policy for water and sewer? Faith?
It would be the same.
Same 40%?
And a lot of this, like we've talked about in the past, is for east side expansion, EPRWA expansion, money that we're saving to put down for those
Okay.
things.
Yeah, that would be good to know in our next budget work session, is just sort of a breakdown of what that, sort of what I'll call the designated uses for those funds look like.
Okay.
Looking at your water and sewer revenues by source for the last 5 fiscal years, in FY 2025, charges for sales and services had an increase of $585,902, and $130,370 of that is attributable to water, and $455,532 of that balance is attributable to sewer. Your other operating revenues had an increase of $95,223, and that's going to be inspection fees and permits of $61,307 and meter fees of $19,350. Your non-operating revenues had a decrease of $105,201, and the water sewer fund had a decrease in investment income of $112,777 as compared to FY 2024. And your capital contributions had an increase of $561,889. And that's your system development fees that are transferred, put aside for the future. You'll see that in the water and sewer system development above on the other graph.
and that one too, system development fees, that was one of my questions. What is that? System, sorry.
System development fees are fees that are charged for development. So if we have, and Paul probably can go into more detail better than I can, but those are fees that we charge for development. Like D.R. Horton would be one of those.
Oh, okay. I thought
And they
that was-
pay us, and then the system development fees are transferred to a capital reserve fund, in which those funds are specifically used. I mean, the state has got that kind of earmarked for what you can use that for.
Right.
Essentially, it's going to be for infrastructure in the future.
Yes, it is.
I actually did an AI Google thing on that, and it said it was for software development. I thought, when did our town get into the software development field? That's a joke.
So in totality, your revenues had an increase of $1,137,813 as compared to FY 2024. And lastly, looking at your water and sewer expenses for the last 5 fiscal years, your salaries and employee benefits had an increase of $317,549. I'd like to point out here that that restatement for FY 2024's implementation of GASB 101 is running through the salaries and employee benefits line for FY 2024. No other balances in that column have been impacted by that implementation. Your professional services had an increase of $5,750. Your contracted services had an increase of $74,118. Your contractual payment for wastewater treatment had an increase of $934. Supplies and materials had an increase of $84,780. The purchase of water had an increase of $17,687. Repairs and maintenance expense had an increase of $29,898. Your other operating expenditures had an increase of $76,247. Depreciation and amortization had a decrease of $22,857. Capital outlay had a decrease of $82,325. And then your non-operating expenses had an increase of $241,833. So in totality, as compared to FY 2024, you had an increase in expenses of $743,614.
Can you go back to the salary employee benefits again and
Yes.
say that was related to the GASB?
Yep, so.
Explain that again.
Yep, So the
Briefly,
FY '24, that column is asterisked, and it says this number was restated due to GASB 101 implementation. And I just wanted to point out that that implementation all ran through that line, and no other balances in that column have been impacted, because it is related to salaries and benefits.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. As I said earlier, I think we should really celebrate the hard effort that Faith and her team are doing here. Going through an audit is not fun. I try to make it as fun as possible, but I'm afraid I can only do so much there, because it's still an audit at the end of the day. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to be here this evening. And I hope the rest of the meeting goes well and that everybody has safe travels home. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Council, I'd like to say one thing. I believe Faith worked Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve to ensure that we had a clean budget. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I know what I was doing on both of those days. Certainly
Thank you,
wasn't
Faith.
working. But thank you.
And both of these are on the site, this one as well, or will be, I guess. These are great charts.
We typically ask that you do not put that on the website.
Oh, really?
But if you ultimately have to, that's fine. But we do consider that proprietary in nature, but in accordance with the Public Records Act, once it's in your hands, it is public record at that point. So ultimately, that is up to you guys. If you want to put it up there, that's fine, but it is not required.
Right.
I would just make one comment. There's a wealth of information in the annual comprehensive financial report that sort of directly applies to things that we have been talking about and things that we'll get into with the upcoming budget development process. And the thing that I was interested in was to sort of look at the top 10 top property taxpayers in the community from 2025 versus 2016, and to see how some things have changed. And when I look through the list, I can see the developments that are out there and what's taking place.
I'm impressed that you actually made it all the way to the statistics.
I made it. I actually printed stuff out.
That's commendable there. In and of
Yeah.
itself.
But it was, it was interesting to me, and I just wanted to, again, thank you for your time and efforts and your team, so thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed evening.
Thanks. Okay, and we are now going to hear from Chief Carson. Annual Fire Department Report.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Glad to be with you guys tonight. Tonight we'll go over our 2025 annual report, which we do every year for the council. And so we'll go through some of the stats and data from the last year and just review a couple of the pertinent highlights as well. So it's off just a little bit on the screen, but I'm going to also go over. So just to recap, Station 46 is one of our 5 fire stations. It's a daily staffing of 3, 1 captain and 2 firefighters. We also utilize Station 46 in partnership with GTCC. We house resident firefighters at this station. Currently we have 1 that's in the GTCC Fire Academy that also is living in the fire station next door. And so that's a partnership where we allow them to gain valuable experience in the firehouse while also obtaining their experience through their certifications, and then we also tend to hire from those personnel as well. So it's a good program that we're able to utilize here in Jamestown that helps our staffing in the evenings also. So on the fire and life safety side, fire prevention numbers for the year, we delivered 27 programs in Jamestown. That was 46 total staff hours that we put into those programs. We reached 7,373 adults and children through those programs, and we installed 32 smoke alarms. Between smoke alarms and batteries, 32 of those. A lot of those adults and children that were reached are in the Music in the Park programs. So we're fortunate to be able to be involved with those through the town staff and leadership there to be able to deliver fire and life safety messages, and that's a big hit always through the music in the parks. But also in the schools, in the elementary schools that we're in, that's where we reach a lot of those children as well. Our total hours of training for the year were a little over 14,000, so we don't break it down just by station. This is department as a whole, so over those 5 stations, a little over 1,000 classes offered. So we offer a lot of classes in-house, a lot of the leadership and a lot of the officer classes and developmental classes we do in-house. We're very fortunate to be right here at GTCC in Jamestown, where they have a fire program and fire campus there as well. In the last year, they've increased a lot of their facilities in that area, which has also allowed us to be able to be a benefactor of that. So we're very fortunate for that over there, because it allows, the more that they put into that facility, the less we have to put into our facilities. So as far as the training component, so we are fortunate to be right next door to that, but also the fire academy, which we have cadets in every time. So for the year, our total calls for service at Pinecroft Sedgefield was 3,906. Station 46 ranked 3rd in the number of the service demand for calls. And so I'll break down that just a little bit, what those 636 look like. Again, of the 3,900 overall, that's our breakdown. Predominantly medical calls. So medical calls are any illness, trauma related to a medical incident. And then you can see how that number changes throughout the other service demands. And I'll show you as well what that looks like in Jamestown. But the percentages pretty much stay the same when we look at in Jamestown as well, out of Station 46. So 358 medical incidents for the year, 28 fire incidents for the year, 77 fire alarms, 32 motor vehicle accidents, and then the last category there, service, good intent, and false alarm. Some of those good intent and service may be welfare incidents, or where the community may call us on a non-emergency to come look at or come help out. Smoke alarms and other things like that go into that category at the bottom there. Any questions on any of those?
Do you know how many false alarms did you have last year? Do you know?
I don't have that. But no, it's included in that last column, and we do break that out from the true alarms. But I could get you that data and that information, but it's grouped in that 141. Fire alarms were down for the year, so that we did see a decrease in some of that stuff.
Good, thank you. Sorry.
Mayor?
If you had a history line with bar charts, what have you seen go up or trend? What are the trends that you've seen in the?
So what's unique this year is some of that call volume is down, and some of that is fire alarms, which we constantly work with repeat alarms that we see, whether they are true alarms or false alarms. So we do see that kind of trend. Medical incidents continue to trend up, just with the nature of what that is. And then fire incidents are down. That's one of those areas that, again, through with our fire and life safety and being advocates there and trying to put things out on social media and different things that we can do, we try to help bring that in. And then I was speaking earlier, and we got a heat map too that we kind of see where things trend. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to the flow, and then other times there may be. So on the fire data, we do track where fires are happening. Are they happening in a certain area? And if they are, then we'll go out into those areas with smoke alarm canvas and different things to try to combat some of that. So that's some of the areas. Every year we do a smoke alarm canvas, and we pick those areas based off where we've seen some of that demand for certain things.
The motor vehicle accidents, do you see the Parkway influencing that at all?
We have responded on incidents over on the Parkway in some certain areas of the intersections. Anytime there's intersections, we see accidents in those areas. But we have seen some additional motor vehicle accidents around that Parkway area.
Yeah. Thanks.
Moving on to our fire incidents. So what we track with fire incidents specifically is the save loss. So what was exposed to fire on the property value side. So we had a little over $2.5 million worth of property value exposed to fire last year. So of that, there was $58,500 lost. So every time that we have a fire, we track the property value of that location, and then what was saved to that or what was lost. So the save percentage is 98% for last year in Jamestown, which is very good. So 2.519 million saved of the 2.5 that was exposed to that, or the 2.577 that was exposed to that.
I think that's because you get there so quickly. I mean,
Yeah, that's definitely the time that we can get there plays a huge factor in being able to, and having the personnel on the truck
of course.
that we need. And so to that, it's always the thing that we like to, that I like to share with the council, is the 3 areas that we track through our data. And so that's turnout time. So turnout time is from the time that we receive the alarm in the fire station to the time that the fire truck is rolling out the door. So we have benchmarks daytime and nighttime, because obviously during the daytime we're awake, at nighttime we're asleep. So we factor that in. During the day, it's 1 minute, and at night our benchmark is 2 minutes to be in the truck and rolling. So our 90%, and what is important as well is these aren't averages, these are 90 percentiles. So 90% of the time, this is the number that we can reach. And so we like to look at 90% because average is only half the time. And so 90% of the time is a better way for us to track that data. So turnout time that we receive the alarm till time out the door, 90% of the time in 2025, that was 1:44. That's day and night time combined. Travel time is the time that once we start rolling till the time that we get to the incident. And so that was 3 minutes and 50 seconds in the town of Jamestown, throughout the whole town. That's day and night. And then response time total is a combination of those two numbers together. So 90% of the time from the time that we receive the alarm in the firehouse to the time that we're on scene is 5 minutes and 34 seconds, 90% of the time. So we're very proud of that. That's our benchmarks. Our benchmarks on those are 2 minutes on turnout time, 4 minutes on travel time, and then response time under 6. So we're hitting those marks, and we track that. Our personnel, we put that out to them monthly. They're aware of that on the station level and the apparatus level. So each one knows each shift that we have over there where their specific numbers are. So we track it because it's important, because to your point, Mayor, it does make a difference in the other data, right? We can control turnout time. We can't control travel time. It is what it is, but we can control turnout time. And so it does make a difference on the back end of people when they call 911 receiving that aid very quickly. And then the last thing I have, I would just like to say thank you to the council that was able to attend our awards banquet. Every year we host an awards banquet to recognize our members for the service they've provided over the last year and acknowledge their awards that they have received. I do want to just point out that we did have one medical life save in the town of Jamestown. And so that crew, to acknowledge that crew in front of council here and online, but also just to make that announcement because it was important in our program to make acknowledgement of those. A medical life save for us, I'll just read real quickly, is presented to department members directly responsible for the use of any authorized medical act that results in the saving of a life. To qualify for this award, the patient must have been pulseless with no respirations upon the fire department's arrival and released to a hospital emergency department with a pulse and breathing. So a lot of times we respond on a lot of calls that you could see in that last slide of the data. And so to make an impact in that regard to save a life when the person that we got there for was not breathing and didn't have a pulse is very important and was a great achievement this last year for the crew next door. So with that, I will answer any questions you have you may have for the.
I don't have any questions, Chief Carson. I just wanted to say a thank you on behalf of the town. We all have jobs. Everybody's role is important in this town. They're not all life and death, and this one is, and the amazing work that you guys do and the quickness in which you do that and the efficiency that you do that. I was able to attend your award ceremony the other night and appreciate you recognizing people that do that. But just thank you for what you do because your role is incredibly important. You just talked about, the person received an award because when you got there, they were essentially not with us anymore. That's right. And when the ambulance got there, they were. And I think that speaks volumes about your training and your commitment, and just want to say thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I second that. Thanks, Jen.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, and let's see, we are going to move to the manager's report. Matthew.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know we've had some weather, but loose leaf pickup will end on February the 20th. We're going to ask that residents have their leaves at the curb no later than February the 16th, that's next Monday, to ensure that the crews have time to get those leaves up. Bulk solid waste will occur on February the 12th, that's this Thursday, 1 week later than usual because we had that inclement weather. And as Nick alluded to earlier, our annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, was submitted to the LGC, received and approved. It is now available on the town's website. Early voting for the midterm primaries will take place here in the council chambers between February the 12th and the 28th. Election day is on March the 3rd, and anyone with questions about voting should contact the Guilford County Board of Elections. That our town staff don't answer questions related to voting. We don't have that ability. I do want to extend my sincere thanks to all the crews who've been on call, working long hours during the recent weather events to keep our roadways open and safe, and they do a tremendous job. And we are very thankful they're willing to take time away from their families during severe weather to serve our citizens. I do appreciate the speakers earlier this evening who are here to give their thanks for those crews as well. It does mean a lot to our staff. I know they do watch these meetings as well. There's one other item here. I'd like to change the scheduled meeting date for our lobbyist meeting, which was originally scheduled for February 13th. That's Friday. It needs to change due to early voting. We are going to recommend March the 12th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. That's, I believe, a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. We'd also like to couple that with an important project update regarding the D.R. Horton project. It is one of the largest projects that we have seen in town, and since it's coming up out of the ground now, we're seeing things happen out there. We thought that this would be a prudent time to go ahead and schedule a quick update on that project as well. Is that time, if that's agreeable at this time?
What
Or?
night is
Good with
that?
me.
What day of the week
I
is
believe it's Thursday, March the 12th,
Yeah, it's a
6
Thursday.
p.m.
Yeah, that sounds great.
in this
Yep.
venue, and we'll work on trying to get that broadcast as well.
Good.
Good, thanks.
All right, I will set that information out on the town's website. That's all I have for you, unless you have specific questions for me at this time.
Just one thing, and I'll sound like a broken record. I did want to thank the crews that were out there working over the past couple of weeks. As I mentioned to you, and I guess having formerly served in Greensboro and sort of seeing the difference between the roadway conditions in Greensboro and High Point compared to Jamestown, I'm awfully proud of the work that was done. The guys, as I tell you, it's an art, not a science, but they timed the clearing of the streets sort of perfectly on Sunday, I think it was, when the weather got a little bit warmer there for a few minutes. But I'm just extremely grateful and proud for what they've done, and I guess from council's perspective, like to find a way to recognize them at some point in time with some kind of either luncheon or ceremony that we could all help sponsor. So
I think that's a wonderful idea. We talked about that briefly. I will say it is an art. It is a little bit of science, but it is very much an art. Our operations superintendent watched it very closely. They did a couple of test runs to see. That was the first event. It was a lot more sleet in that. It was a little bit more icy. And they recognized very quickly that if they continue to try to plow, it makes the situation much worse. So they very wisely kind of waited until that next morning, sort of mid-morning, let the sun come out, do its job, and they were able to knock it down very quickly. And I'm very proud of them. They do a great job.
How many plows do we have?
Paul, is about 10.
What?
They're not separate. They're just the things they put on the front of it.
Yeah.
So 9 plows, two pieces of heavier equipment, so a backhoe and a skid steer.
Right. Wow.
They do tremendous work.
I saw too, the other day when I was leaving, I was talking to a couple of them with the big new, what is that, wetback thing? That's the only thing I can think of. It's on the back of a truck and it unclogs, you know.
So we have a machine that they're doing some testing now for a requirement that we have to do, lead service line testing, so that's a
Oh, that's right.
evacuator truck, yep.
They were in my neighborhood today.
Oh, good.
Unclogging a clog, I guess. I don't know, but it's pretty impressive, whatever it is.
They do a tremendous amount of work with a very small staff.
And I guess it's a new machine too that's, I know.
It is
I saw
relatively, yes.
I'd like to add, the feedback that I was getting from people in the community was that they were also really happy about receiving the communications updates that was put out, just keeping like timelines of, you know, when our guys will be coming out and just the weather update. So people were really appreciative of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any committee reports, council members?
I had one.
Yeah.
So our January meeting of the High Point Urban Area TAC was canceled because of inclement weather. Surprise, surprise. So our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, February the 24th at 10 o'clock in the morning at the High Point Museum. So anybody who would like to attend that is certainly welcome to attend. The other thing I wanted to bring attention to, and I think it's been published on the town's Facebook page or maybe even other social channels, but there is an upcoming Safety Action Plan virtual open house that's going to take place, again, virtually on Tuesday, March the 10th from noon until 1 p.m. What that's all about is the High Point MPO, along with the Piedmont Triad Regional Council of Governments, has received and is working on what I'll call a regional-based transportation safety plan. So they've hired a consulting team and they've identified sort of all the top accident locations, both in Jamestown and throughout High Point and throughout the region, with the exception of Winston-Salem and Greensboro. They're sort of their own little MPO enclaves, as I will call them. But it's good information to plug yourself into. As I was telling the chief earlier, I guess being a practicing traffic engineer, safety engineer of sorts, certainly have a lot of interest in these kinds of things and want to find ways to help our town be even better and more safe going forward. So again, the Safety Action Plan meeting is on Tuesday, March the 10th from noon until 1 p.m. I think you just go online and register and they'll send you some kind of link to get involved with the Zoom meeting. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
What is the main website for the TAC?
Just go Google High Point MPO TAC.
M or N?
M as in Mary. M as in Madam Mayor.
All right,
High Point MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization.
great.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any needs?
Of course, Parks and Recs was canceled due to why? Weather. So we're going to get there one day, but the next one is scheduled for March 2nd.
All right.
Nothing from schools either. We haven't been in school, so.
Piedmont Triad, we haven't met either, and our friend Sarah is out of the country, so. All right, let's see here. So I guess that brings us into some old business here. Yeah, and these were some things we had mentioned last.
Madam Mayor.
I think we missed one report from the Sheriff's Department.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How did I miss? Yeah, there you are.
Here we go.
Good evening, all. Deputy Roger with the Sheriff's Office. Calls of service for January is we had 177 calls for service, 96 of which were self-initiated, 25 traffic stops with an average response time of 5 minutes and 54 seconds. 16 total reports this month, 3 thefts, 2 at the Shell gas station, 1 at Second Chance Closet, 1 assault, 3 frauds, 2 controlled substance violations, and 7 non-criminal cases. injured deer, other random assorted, just non-criminal cases. Our hotspots for January were, of course, the Sheets, Second Chance Closet, and Food Line. That's where most of our thefts take place, and a few other different individual calls. And again, compared to other districts, Jamestown is on the lower end of call volume. Pleasant Garden has always been our problem child for years and will probably remain our problem child for years to come. And of course, Sedgefield is second highest. Again, just when you get sandwiched in between two cities, you have issues that come with that, but Jamestown has managed to keep it relatively good. Again, the sheriff's office always reminds that fraud cases continue to rise. We've seen a spike in that in the recent years. We always recommend, be wary of random text messages. Don't click on unknown links that you're not aware of. Real companies will not ask you to pay with Bitcoin or any other random assorted ATMs at a gas station. They have their way of being paid, and it doesn't involve going to a gas station. Let me see. They gave me a lot here. But yeah, I was like 17 reports. Some of the non-criminals was vandalism, injured animals, other non-classified, which is just non-criminal cases. Is there any questions for the sheriff's office?
Why the Sheets? Why is that so?
It's just very easy. You just walk in, grab it, and walk out, and hope nobody saw you. Usually they see you and you just run and get in your car and drive away. It's just easier to do.
Is it 24-hour?
Yeah, it's open 24 hours, so just essentially all they do is just walk in, and it tends to that tends to be more of a juvenile crime, where we have the Millicent Main apartments over there, so they just go over there and they want a snack or something. They just grab it out of the fridge and run out before anybody stops them. Then they get back to their apartment, and it's very hard to catch up to them before they're gone.
So just one thing, I know at the last meeting, we had talked about getting some, what I'll call speed enforcement data
yes,
statistics in different.
on Guilford Road.
On Guilford Road and Dillon Road and
Yes.
the Parkway, and I'd also like to add East Fork Road to that too.
So we did 7 traffic stops on Guilford Road in December, and I don't have the numbers on January yet.
Yeah.
But we received that. We've been looking into it and trying to do some more traffic enforcement out there. We've put up I don't know if anybody's noticed it, but when you're going towards Guilford College Road, you'll see those blue flashing lights on Guilford. That's our speed enforcement sign. It will, I believe, if they put
Does
the
it
right.
work? Is it working? I noticed it was working one time. It's not been,
Last time I drove there, it was working.
maybe I wasn't speeding.
That tends to be what happens. Like if you're not going above the speed limit, you won't see those lights. Sometimes it will light up, but
So he was speeding the first
This
time.
is not a
that what we're,
test. This is not a test.
but we are looking into that, and we are trying to do some more enforcement out there. It's just
Yeah, and again, the roads that I hear about most often are Guilford Road, Dillon Road, East Fork Road, Oakdale, and the Parkway. Those are sort of our top 5 list. There might be others.
Yeah, I was like, we're trying to get out there and enforce and do some more enforcement out there. We're always at the mercy of our calls and the call volume, but we've tried to be out there and show our presence more.
Thank you.
Y'all did a great job helping the monks get through town, too.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was great. All righty. So old business. There were a couple things that some of us had, just questions last time. I know, Faith, you were out of town, too, so maybe it could have been resolved. But that old business discussion regarding, that's the January financial position report, not really the financial position. There was an item that we needed, I guess, a budget amendment for, and I think you were going to get back to us on that, Matthew, or somebody was, $55,000. And then I had asked for some additional numbers on the golf report. We didn't have the quarterly reports through 2025, just for second quarter.
I think, Madam Mayor, I had a conversation today with the manager in Faith, and I had a few sort of follow-up questions for them and items that I wanted to see incorporated on the monthly reports. I think they'll be able to handle pretty easily in terms of us better understanding the numbers and information that's there. I mean, my questions were pretty general, and, you know, one question I can recall I had was about, you know, both of our printouts for the general fund and water and sewer have what's called like an appropriating balance on that number, and trying to just understand how that works, and a few tweaks in the report itself where we could add things to it. But otherwise, I think they got it, they understand, they'll try to incorporate some changes next month.
And I'd be glad to answer it in Faith. You can correct me if I'm incorrect, but the question was $55,500. That is a pass-through from Guilford County for the library. And quarters 3 and quarters 4 for this fiscal year haven't happened yet. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30th, 2025, 2026. So Scott will be presenting those quarterly reports once they occur.
Well, I mean, they had only gone through June of last year. I had not seen quarterly reports for,
Our quarterly report from the last meeting was reported through the end of December.
for the recreation. The one I got was through April.
It was golf. He only reported on golf,
Okay.
golf
so
numbers.
not
So that's what I gave him, was golf numbers.
Yeah, and then,
Next
right, okay, so the recreation, we still don't have, I mean. that's
So
what
are
I'm
you saying you want that on a quarterly basis as well?
No, I was just saying, at the last month's meeting, I know that when Scott gave his report, there were no financials, and somebody asked about those, and he looked, and Katie said, oh, didn't send them, and then you sent us those in an email. And I'm saying that, yeah, there's a lot there for golf, but the quarterly numbers for the recreation stopped at June of last year. I didn't have them beyond June. Maybe you just didn't attach
It
the
might have
whole
been
report.
just an older spreadsheet that got attached, because sometimes I have multiple spreadsheets on Excel, like that, on the Excel book. But if you want that, I can get that for you by the next time he does the quarter reports.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And he says the 55, that expense 55.5 was a pass-through again. Tell me what that was.
So the 55.5 is a grant from Guilford County. We do not budget that because we never know if Guilford County is going to put that in their budget until after their budget's passed. And it's for Jamestown Public Library. Basically, we are the pass-through for that. So Guilford County sends us the funds. We accept the funds by doing a budget amendment, and then the funds then are sent directly to Jamestown Public Library. So it's an in and out for us.
Okay. I guess maybe we can talk about this afterwards, because I thought it was showing up as something that had been spent through the Parks and Rec.
It does go there because that's where the library budget line sits.
Oh, it is?
Is in recreation.
Okay, the library is, okay.
Yes,
I didn't know
ma'am.
that. And then I had asked just, and I still would really like more detail on the monthly reports, that you could, Matthew calls them line item. I don't know if that's what they are. And if the rest of the council doesn't need them, is this something that I can have, that you can give me to help me understand, get a better view? It's just like when we needed or asked for the, what were the numbers we wanted, or for the things that we added on the budget amendment for, and you got back to us with, oh, this much had been spent to date on legal, and you know, this has been encumbered, and the same thing with the video. If we had that spreadsheet, we wouldn't have to ask you for that information. It's all I'm saying. And I had said that I know that it used to be a regular thing for the council to receive those every month up through, and that they stopped for some reason in January 2024. And it was just such a helpful, tool to see how the town was doing and where they were spending money and how it was operating.
I'm happy to make an appointment for a standing meeting once a month for you to sit down and go through all of our financials with Faith, myself, and whoever we need to help you understand that information.
Just the printout would be great, and then I can go.
I'd like to make a standing meeting so that we can make sure that we answer all questions and explain what's in the financials.
And if I have the printout, then I can look at it, and then I'll know what my questions are, and then we can.
We can certainly do that, but I would like to do that in accordance with, so that the administration can have a chance to communicate with you about what's in there. At the last meeting, there was a claim made that there was missing money, and there was no missing money. I want to make sure that we avoid those types of.
Who made the claim that there was missing money?
Madam Mayor, you did.
No, I did not. I think you're mistaking there. I never said there was missing money. I did ask about a budget amendment, which you just answered, but I would like that report, and my understanding is I should be able to ask for that report and receive it. I am the mayor, and I would like to have that report. Okay? All right. Let's see here, discussion, the work sessions. Okay, that was the other thing. I sent an email and asked you all if you wanted to keep talking about that or just sit on it for a while, and I think that we agreed we still like the idea of having some kind of a regular work session that we can plan for and around and discuss just some general thoughts and topics that might come up that aren't really suitable for, a town council meeting.
Yeah, I think, the manager provided us with a sort of revised date tonight with some additions with the D.R. Horton update. That's, to me, we call it a special meeting. It's the same thing as a work session. It's where important information will be shared about topics and activities that we're involved with. So in that case, it'll be a legislative agenda update from our hired lobbyist firm and development of an agenda, and then we'll hear about the D.R. Horton update. Sort of going forward, I mean, the things that are on my radar screen include when the Piedmont Triad Water Authority releases their regional plan. I think we'd all like to hear about that directly from their executive director and probably our town appointee who serves on that board, just to better understand, what that plan is, how it's going to impact Jamestown going forward. I think it's going to be favorable to the town, but it would be good to hear it directly from them. The second thing is, as we get more into the development of the fire station study and upgrade, that would be another good item to hear from the consultant who's doing that work about what that looks like and what those options are. I know Senator Berger was here at our last meeting, and we asked him about sort of the future funding of that. I think it's going to take some additional resource support outside of Jamestown to help us do that. I know that Guilford County EMS is also a partner in that station, so that might be another avenue of discussion that we need to bring up too at some point in time. And then last but not least, as we sort of look at things like our Main Street water line replacement project, it would be good to maybe get an update on that at some point in time too. I know that that's still a live project for us, active. My thing there would be beneficial to have an opportunity to share sort of the details of what might happen with Main Street traffic impacts related to the project in the future. Anyway, I'll stop there. They're all items that are sort of good candidates for future work sessions because like I mentioned earlier, with the upcoming session we'll have on the legislative agenda and the D.R. Horton update, those are things that are going to take more time. Those are things that really need to happen probably outside of this meeting. I mean, we could do them theoretically here at one of our meetings, but I don't think anybody wants to be here necessarily till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So, so I'm still in favor of doing that. I just don't know what the timing of those different items look like directly.
I think too, we even talked about some of them possibly being more informal. We had the meeting with the Deep River Riverkeeper and began talking about the trail, the old Deep River Trail that, you know, is a beautiful document, and possibly along with that and some of the envisioning that we were doing for our strategic plan, that would be fun to combine even with something with PTRWA, since they're working together now to clean up, you know, Randleman and somebody, anyway, great thoughts. I think that when Pam and I were talking about it, I think we all agree we want this, but we don't yet know how to.
Absolutely, and
do
that's the problem. I'd like to
Yeah.
thank you, Councilman, for all of the information that you've shared and what you think that our work session should be. And for clarification, I want to go back to where you said wanting to have a work session when we have a lobbyist. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so the
Because I mean, this is, I don't think, the reason why I need some clarification on that, because that wasn't anything that we really, you know, etched in stone. And I wanted to get more of a consensus from the rest of the council in regards to that. In addition, I think that all of the items that you suggested, again, I think those are great items. Again, I'd like to have more of a consensus from the rest of the council before moving forward. Also, in addition, yes, Madam Mayor, we did talk about these work sessions, and great thing is that we all are in agreement that they should happen. I think that we have to have additional and more conversation in regards to what this looks like, and have a consensus as to what work session topic as a consensus going forward. And again, I still, you know, think that this, as we discussed, you know, we do probably and will need the help of staff. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but we definitely have to. And I think that once we do that, we'll be good to go but I was just because we're talking about when the lobbyist is here, that's March, and so I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure
that's already said. That's where I was trying to, yeah, that's where I was trying to just draw an example about, you know, we're calling it a special meeting. Effectively, it's the same, sort of in my mind, the same thing as a work session where we're having a topic specifically focused where our lobbyist is going to come in and give us a legislative update of things that are going on. We, from council's perspective, will develop an agenda. That will be sort of one half of that meeting. The second half will be on the D.R. Horton update. But those are all just sort of topic items and sort of a flow for what a work session might feel like. Work sessions, special meetings are sort of interchangeable because everything has to be publicly advertised.
I don't think any of us are against having work sessions. And just for clarification's sake, the conversation came up in relation to briefings that we would get from the members of the town prior to a meeting here, prior to the town council meetings. And so it's where we get information on what's going on, what's coming up, and that sort of thing. And I think those things are invaluable. It gives us an opportunity to ask questions, get information, and help us prepare for the meeting, and also may help us resolve some conflicts before we might get to a meeting. I think it's important to have those work sessions. The briefings are very helpful to me as a new member to this, because there's a lot of information that comes through, and it's helpful to be able to ask questions in those environments. I do think the work sessions are very important. Just like we said, you know, we wanted, you know, D.R. Horton is a big issue in the community. We're in the progress of building, and so there's a lot of information and misinformation, so it gives us a chance to do that. And so I think the work sessions are valuable, but I think we also accomplish a lot in the briefings as well. So it's my 2 cents.
I agree.
Okay, so this is just going to, we've kind of got one out there, and it's going to sort of organically develop, I think, because it's something new, and it's something that we all would like to continue, of course, with the staff's participation, approval, availability. So, all righty. We'll keep
are we gonna, should we maybe set up a time to talk to the staff about what this is gonna look like? I'd like to know what it's actually.
Well, we could, and, or take it one at a time. I mean, the first one's coming up in March, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's just use the time we've got coming up in March as sort of a test run of what a work session might look like and feel like. Because
Does that work
effectively,
for you
that's,
guys? So
that's,
it's going to be helpful to know what we need to do, what you need to do. That's where.
March 12th.
I think it's fine. I just, I want to reiterate, staff capacity is something that I'm very concerned about.
Right.
That's my responsibility. We are going to have a meeting on the 12th. You'll have a regular council meeting on the 17th, and then a budget meeting on the 19th. That's a lot. It's a lot for staff to deal with. It's a lot for you to deal with. It's a lot for the public to deal with. So I think if we have a need for a work session, we would identify that with you and work up a time to meet with you that works for everybody, just like we did tonight, sort of organically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And probably not really get started till after the budget stuff. I mean, I know there's a lot.
It would be nice if we could get through budget stuff.
Yeah, totally agree.
Agree.
All righty, thank you, that's good, that was helpful. And now the Girl Scout flag retirement box. I like this one. Scott Coakley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to stand before you tonight with something a little fun and tell you a little bit about the Girl Scout Silver Award. It is the highest achievement for Girl Scout cadets and requires girls to work as a team to identify a community need and create a sustainable solution. Each scout contributes a minimum of 50 hours planning, leading, and completing a project that makes a lasting impact. The Silver Award emphasizes leadership, teamwork, and community involvement, with the Girl Scout taking the primary responsibility for organizing and carrying out her project. Lacey Skelton, a dedicated Girl Scout, is proposing the installation of a permanent U.S. flag retirement station at Red Miller Park as part of her Girl Scout Silver Award. I'm struggling with that word, y'all. This station would provide the community with a respectful and convenient way to properly retire worn or damaged American flags in accordance with flag etiquette. The project promotes patriotism, civic responsibility, and community service while offering a lasting benefit to the park and its visitors. It's my pleasure to introduce Lacey Skelton, and she's accompanied by her family tonight. Lacey is a dedicated Girl Scout who's working towards earning her Girl Scout Silver Award. Got it that time. Lacey has shown initiative and a strong sense of responsibility for developing her project proposal, and today she'll be standing here with us and sharing her plan to make a positive impact through the project. Excuse my eyes water a little bit. I passed out a copy of her proposal and laid it at your workstations. She will be planning and scheduling everything. We'll help her with getting the concrete pad poured for her project, but everything else, she'll be her in leadership. And she's got everything on here from research and planning, design materials, all the way from start to beginning. And so we just ask that you approve this project tonight. And she's here too. If you got any questions, I know she'll be more than happy to answer.
so just remind me again, what's the location where this is going to be placed?
We're thinking if you're looking at the monument, over to the right, over in the tree line, where the time capsule is.
And how do these things work? Do you just take old flags and put them in there? Maybe you can describe that for us.
It'll just be like a drop-in box, and if it's old or worn and it needs to be retired, you can just drop it in the box and someone will come by to collect it.
Thank you.
And we'll probably do a lot of the collecting ourselves, and we do that already to an extent, and we'll be putting, donating to Boy Scouts for proper retirement and for their ceremonies and stuff.
I think that's great.
Will there be like an opening ceremony, if you will, in order to let people know that it's there in the first place as well?
That's a good idea. We can discuss that for sure.
That would be nice.
Well, that's very nice. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Do we need to
Yeah, we need to make a
make
motion.
a motion here? Approve Lacey's project?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we, the council, accept or approve the flag retirement project at Red Miller Park.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What a
Thank
nice
y'all.
thing to do.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item is discussion about publishing the legal notices for public hearings and how that's done and maybe changing that. And I think that's Jim's.
Yeah, I brought this up at the last meeting. The manager had made us aware back in December that there were options that we had available from council's perspective as it relates to advertising and public ads. I think that there for, special meetings and other kinds of purposes, there's a required list, and maybe the manager can give us more information if you don't mind, just to sort of tee this up, Matthew.
Sure, thank you. A little bit of background. State law requires that certain issues be advertised in a newspaper of general circulation in our jurisdiction. And these are things like public hearings, budget proposals, those types of items. And historically, the town has utilized Jamestown News for advertising those notices. But sometimes, because of timing issues, because they're a weekly newspaper, it's necessary for the town to source a different outlet. And that's typically the High Point Enterprise. During an early January public hearing notice, late December, early January, the town clerk sourced a quote from the High Point Enterprise because of timing and noticed that there was quite a discrepancy in the cost between those two runs. I believe the quote difference was about $160 for the High Point Enterprise versus $525 for the Jamestown News. Once the clerk brought that to my attention, in the interest of transparency and fiscal responsibility, I brought that attention to your attention as the council. Mr. Womack, the editor of the Jamestown News, was looped in, and subsequently he contacted us to alert us to his ability to bring those costs down, and this would be accomplished by reducing the size of the ad, the font size, those types of things. And we do appreciate that approach. And council requested that I bring some information with all of the available options for addressing legal ads. There are basically three approaches. First of all, the General Assembly passed a law in 2017 which allows legal notices to be published on websites digitally. Session Law 2017-210 authorizes Guilford County and municipalities that are wholly or partially within the county to publish required legal notices electronically rather than relying solely on newspaper publication. So that's not automatic. Council would have to adopt an ordinance to do that, and that would require a public hearing and all of those types of things. But if it is adopted, those notices would be posted on the town's website no later than the time that they would otherwise need to be published. They would need to remain online for at least 1 year, be searchable, and clearly linked from the town's homepage. I don't know if you've been to our webpage, but we don't have a webpage administrator, and so that is a little difficult for us to do. But there is another option. You may contract with the county for them to maintain and post our notices on their website, which they allow us to do. Anyone who requests notices would still receive it by mail or email, and a formal notice book would then continue to be maintained by the clerk for public inspection. If we elect to adopt that approach, we would be responsible for advertising for the next 12 months in a newspaper, a set of instructions on where to find our legal ads. So there's another cost. This does not override any requirement for mailed notice to property owners or signs or other statutory notice requirements. The purpose of that law is to improve access, transparency, and efficiency while maintaining due process. But again, no action is required unless council wants to explore that option, and we would have to come up with a draft ordinance and recommendations, et cetera. The second option is to continue our current operations, continue to advertise a newspaper of staff's choice that's generally, again, based on timing, but with a deference to the Jamestown News because we like to support our local businesses. In the past few years, the costs have not been extremely significant. I figure that you might ask this. With the exception of 2025, which may be where some of the changes in the legal ad size occurred. Fees for 2022 were approximately $660. That was a COVID year. There was not a lot of public activity going on that required public notice. 2023 was approximately $1,493. 2024, approximately $1,318. 2025 was approximately $4,320. And to date, we've spent $525. We've spent approximately $65 with High Point Enterprise in 2024 and $40 in 2025. So we primarily use Jamestown News. The third and final approach would be a hybrid approach where we could pass an ordinance and permit digital advertising and also go ahead and print advertising in the newspapers. This would cost a little bit more, but it would require quite a bit of additional staff time and burden. It would not be our recommendation. Maintaining two outlets is cumbersome. To be clear, staff would recommend continuing with our current operations, given that Mr. Womack has been agreeable to assist us in helping us reduce costs to the town. And this would allow us to continue supporting local businesses and still being financially responsible. I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
I just had sort of two comments about it. One is, you know, when you brought up the point that we had an option available to us that was legislatively available in terms of doing it on our own, our website, you know, my initial reaction was that's a good way to go in terms of being able to do it at no cost to the town, but it appears from your, you know, work and discussion tonight that there would be some time and cost involved in sort of standing that option up for the town. So it leads me to the second point. I'm, you know, more than comfortable in continuing with the system that we have in place, but you know, I've got to focus on resources and stewardship, and just want to make sure that again, if we continue with that practice, that there's a cost competitive component going on with those ads that we place. It just seems to me, with what we found with the one ad that you all had to place in December and the big differential in terms of overall cost, you know, I value and I appreciate our local newspaper like everybody else does, but I'm also sensitive to the point of hearing from constituents out there that are telling me about, you know, you need to find ways to reduce property taxes and reduce fees, pay attention more to the dollars that you're spending on behalf of the town. So I just think, you know, in this market, you know, I'm certainly willing to continue with the current practice, but would like to see some sort of policy position focused on taking the lowest cost for the service provided or for the ads that are to be placed. That's my perspective.
I appreciate all that information. I did not know how much would be involved in running an ad on your website, and that it would have to stay there for a year somewhere?
Say that again?
The ad would have to stay on the website for a
So
year?
if we decided that we wanted to move to digital only, we would have to publish in the newspaper for a year, monthly, instructions on where to find our public notices.
Oh, okay.
To help the public understand where to find our notices.
Yeah, that's involved. I also, I remember this had come up before, and as part of that communication discussion, we talked about maybe doing a sort of surveying folks in town to see where they get their news and, you know, legal notices and that kind of thing. I think this, you know, as a news girl, that's kind of, I think it's important. I really am very proud that we have our own hometown newspaper. There's not many towns that do, and I think as a small business, and I think Mr. Womack owns property across the street and is, you know, pays taxes too. Just supporting, you know, you guys in general as much as we can. But, you know, the times being what they are, it might be just, we just need to keep exploring the digital aspect. And again, that may come with a new super duper website and web administrator one day. Who knows? Yeah, it's interesting, just very interesting. What do y'all think?
I've read the Jamestown News for 30 years. I still have copies of it in the house, got articles cut out in there, and that's one of the things people talk about having a small town feel is having a local newspaper. And I realized that, you know, we all said when we came on board that we want to look at things and say, where can we reduce, and look at those options. That's why all these things are being explored in the first place, not because somebody wants to get rid of something. It's just that we said we're going to be fiscally responsible. Having said that, I think I don't know that it's enough juice for the squeeze, so to speak, that we're going to eliminate something to save this amount of money, which is not negligible, but not a huge deal. I think there's other things we can look at, but the simple fact that the Jamestown News supports the town, in the time of print media, it's difficult in print media. I'm not in that field, but I know it's a challenge because of all the things that are online. And so I think things that we can do to support them, I know that you said they're already working with us, and we certainly appreciate that, but I appreciate what the Jamestown News does, and they have a challenge ahead. But again, I don't know that, you know, cutting that is as beneficial as it is the problem of us, you know, ultimately losing that connection with the news. So I appreciate the fact they're working with us, and that's the direction I'd like to still head.
Yeah, I was, again, reiterate that since Mr. Womack has reached out to us, we had a good conversation actually this afternoon. He is more than willing to work with us to make sure that we're staying within our budgetary guidelines, so.
And they're still a business. They still have to stay afloat as well.
100%,
you know.
100%.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with that, Jim. Jamestown News is Jamestown News. But I kind of feel like I don't think that doing away with that is going to save us a whole bunch. I'm just going to be honest. It's not going to save us a whole bunch of money. But I think that is something that we can still, again, talk about a little bit more. And perhaps we can do both digitally and, you know, I don't know. But I'd like to talk about that a little bit more. I don't know how much time we've got, but I'd like to look at it a little bit more.
My thoughts are is that we can move forward with current operations without any significant impact to budget. It is incumbent upon me to say that our staff works really hard. They treat these dollars as if they were their own checking account. So it is important for us to have those conversations with you, let you know what's going on, but also thank Mr. Womack for recognizing that and working with us.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to, you know, thank him personally in terms of being willing to look at his rate structure and give us a favorable rate like, you know, we would expect. So, thank you. And again, my other goal with this too, and maybe this is where we continue the conversation around how we do things in the future, really do want to find more opportunities to bring people into our website, web page operations. I know, like Pam said, over the course of the winter activities, whether it was going to the website and checking out different town notifications there of things that were important. You know, I've signed up for the text message feature too, and I would encourage everybody to do that. It's a
Thank you for plugging that. I was going to do that.
yes,
Thank you very much.
it's a great thing. You just go online and register for it, and you'll get a text message whenever there's an update going on with the town. And again, I know I've brought this up before, you know, during the holiday season when we had sort of a change in our sanitation schedule, there were a number of our neighbors where we live that had their trash receptacles and recycling receptacles out on the normal day, and they were, you know, sort of felt bad for them because they needed to be out one day earlier. And anyway, so you know, let's use technology. Let's bring more people to the website. Make that the point where people understand how they can get information in addition to the Jamestown News. So thank you.
You can get text or email or both.
Yeah.
We try not to overdo it with that. We want people to be aware that when we do send something, it is important. So.
I think in the events box, have you?
Oh, yeah, I would like to note that I do post that on the events page on the calendar, so you can see the legal notice information on the events page on our website already. So I do that as well as within the newspaper.
I just started using that. I mean, is that new, or have you always done that?
I've always done that, yeah.
I wonder if that's like something you can just, does it do text updates if you sign up?
No text updates,
Yeah. But that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, anything else? Public comments, anyone else sign up here?
Cookie Billings?
Thank you. You don't realize how hard it is for me to sit here and not say anything. I hope, Mayor and Council, that you received my note earlier today, and this is just a quick follow-up on that. I thought you might appreciate a history of the positive growth and development in the town of Jamestown. I'm qualified to address the issue as, for planned growth in our community and the why and how Jamestown was incorporated in 1947 to foster growth for the future, a sense of the future potential for Jamestown. I served Jamestown for 24 years. I own a home and lived in Jamestown for 28 years. I served as finance officer, assistant manager, and retired in 2010, finishing my career as the town manager. I've read all the first council minute books. Very interesting, try it yourself. And I interviewed the first mayor, Tom Ragsdale Sr., and the first town manager, Charlie Turner, about the whys and hows of the incorporation of the town of Jamestown. Let me go back a little bit. 1905 to 1921, my grandmother grew up in Jamestown. And when I began to work for Jamestown, she began to tell me all kinds of stories. Invite me to a workshop, you'd love to hear it. But let me tell you that she talked about seeing the school finished and her younger sister going to school. She talked about catching the train at the Depot Street to go to High Point and back for the day. Jump to the 1940s. Jamestown consisted of a large cotton mill, farm, and hunting preserve land, a beautiful school serving all grades, and scattered houses mainly living off of Main Street people referred to as the High Point Road, missing the fact that Jamestown was the center, not just the trail to High Point. Leaders like Tom Ragsdale Sr. and Bo Stafford saw World War II soldiers coming back to the States to start baby booming and observed a sense of the future potential for this area. These gentlemen and other residents owned land to develop and saw great potential to build the small community. They could incorporate, become eligible to tax property, incur bonded debt for the town, and apply for federal and state grants. Accomplishing these steps, they began to lay water and sewer lines that enabled these leaders to develop the first neighborhoods in Jamestown, with all of the community benefiting from growth, services, and eventually great things like a very profitable ABC store, which funded a town hall, streets, curb and guttering, paid off bonded debt, and gave the town the ability to grow a better community with greater services. You've heard about that earlier. Through the wisdom of past leaders, our ETJ held on to valuable land that was destined to be developed. I met often with the landowners, Bill and Ted Johnson, and as they planned positive growth. I'm going to leave this with our clerk and to pay attention to your timing, although I think you let the auditor talk too long.
Cookie, you do need to share your necklace story with the mayor. I think you'd find it.
Thank you. Pam asked me that when I came in. I told her my husband and I were walking along the Guilford Road extension, Guilford College, as it was being built. So the road was all turned up. And as we walked, he looked down and found an arrowhead.
Oh, no.
A Jamestown arrowhead.
You're talking my language now.
And I was so impressed with it, and then it disappeared, but it showed up Christmas in gold, and he gave that to me for Christmas.
Oh, my gosh.
So I always carry
Wonderful.
something with Jamestown with me.
Well, that's my favorite pastime is looking for, artifacts, but especially some of these gold quartz rocks and the white topaz here, which is exquisite. And
He has a special talent for that.
Yeah.
And since I'm back at the microphone, let me say thanks to the Girl Scouts. I have a big heart for that, and I'm so proud to see that Jamestown is supporting our Girl Scouts in this area. Thank you.
If I had a nickel for every time someone said, "Oh, I know, do you know Cookie Billings?" I know Cookie Billings ever since I've been
It's
elected.
Girl Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cookie.
Okay. Anyone else?
Nobody else signed up.
All right, any other business? Anyone? Okay, I guess then if I have a motion to adjourn, we can do that.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?